This is kind of like a bonus one, is like if agency says that they're full service, like especially if you're in the small and mid-market kind of space, I'd be running the other way. Like truly what they're really good at. No agency is really full service. They will have certain services that they do, but just ask them specifically like, hey, if out of all these things that you do, what are the top 3 things that you do really well? And just focus on that, because they might show you, 9 or 10 things that they do, but a lot of them are not done at a high level.
Welcome to the Ecommerce Marketing Podcast, the highly rated digital marketing podcast that provides weekly digital marketing tips and strategies from some of the world's top digital marketers and e-commerce entrepreneurs that will help you take your digital marketing to the next level. Sit back and enjoy this power-packed episode hosted by Arlen Robinson, who is an e-commerce entrepreneur and digital marketing expert with over 20 years of experience. Hey, e-commerce marketing podcast listener. Are you looking to increase traffic and sales to your website? You can do this by launching your own affiliate program. Just visit getosi.com and sign up for a free trial today. That's getosi.com. Now get ready to hear from your e-commerce marketing expert of the week as they drill down to give you details on marketing strategies that can help grow your business.
Welcome back to the E-Commerce Marketing Podcast, everyone. My name is Arlen. I am your host. And today we have a very special guest, Behdad Jamshidi, who is the founder of CJAM Marketing, which was founded to help businesses find the right marketing partners because, most don't know how to assess agencies or their own needs most of the time. And over the past 5 years, he's vetted over 970 agencies and built a trusted network of 100 plus agencies across all marketing niches. With a background in marketing, engineering, consulting, and strategy, B has become a go-to matchmaker between business owners and teams that really drive growth. He was featured in MarketWatch, Bloomberg, National Post, and Financial Post. And he also brings clarity to a pretty crowded space. Welcome to the podcast, B.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, and I'm excited to talk to you. Very, very interesting backstory that you have there and what you got going on. Of course, today we're going to be talking about, as I alluded to in your intro, some of the red flags to look for when hiring a marketing agency. And of course, I think you would be the one to talk to regarding this based on all of the agencies that you've vetted while you've been in business. So I think you're a go-to guy as far as what to look for. And I think it's an interesting topic. I've had a lot of agencies on the podcast, and we've talked about agencies versus doing things in-house. And I think it's an interesting topic for sure, because there's a lot of businesses that are now trying to focus more on what they do best and, work with agencies to kind of ramp up their marketing. So I think that's going to be a very interesting topic. But before we do dive into that, it's an impressive feat to have gone through all of those agencies and vetted them. I wanted to know, could you walk us through really, how your journey even began and really what led you to this sort of, I guess you could say, the matchmaking for businesses?
Yeah, I'm happy to share. I mean, it's a pretty unconventional route. I started out as an engineer of all things. And when I was working on the engineering side, I worked for a company called TELUS, and I worked on the B2B side of things. So typically I was working with businesses in the mid-market, so 50 to 1,000 type employee range, understanding what's going on from a C-level perspective, an IT perspective, and then building out technology roadmaps. Like, how do you get from A to B to C within an organization? And I got to work with a lot of cool customers doing that, the Lushes of the world, big law firms, not-for-profit, senior homes, manufacturing, just a whole host of different things. And that's where I got a lot of my business consulting, sales, leadership, and technology experience. On the marketing side, about 6.5 years ago, I was building out websites, Google Ads, and SEO on the weekend, just kind of for fun. I was always a curious human.
Gotcha.
And so I got to a point where I hated doing 80-hour websites on the weekend. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't need to do this. And so I started working with different marketing agencies and basically passing work off to them. But very quickly realized that most marketing agencies didn't understand business. Most business people didn't really understand marketing. And so there's always this gap in the middle. And every time that I would put people in the same meeting, they weren't speaking the same language. An agency says that they do everything, but out of every 100 that I talk to, 15 do things one to three things well, and then 85% of them don't do anything well. And so you just have this world of like marketing agencies that don't do a lot of good work. And so I thought, could I find and build a network of people that I trust, thinking I just needed 10 marketing partners and I'd be able to solve all the world's problems as the young engineer that didn't know the marketing world. Sure. But as you alluded to, I've ended up talking to now 1,036 different marketing agencies and partners and working with about 11% of them. And that's kind of what brought the journey down the road, because I was like, oh, there is no one marketing agency that does absolutely everything. You have to actually piece together the puzzle and bring it all together to get the max amount of value out of your outsourced partners typically.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Interesting. And yeah, it's interesting how you kind of came across that in your journey from, I know, being on the technical side and then going into business, that can definitely help, especially when you're talking about agencies and vetting, a lot of times some of the technical work that they're doing. You do have to have a kind of an eye for some of the things that do happen behind the scenes. And I know that expertise that you have, I'm sure, is a big benefit. Speaking of expertise, of course, the one areas that you have, you're an expert in is spotting those red flags, as we mentioned, that these agencies may, hold up or maybe subtly hold up that you kind of have to uncover.
Yeah.
What would you say are the top 3 red flags that an e-commerce business should look out for when, evaluating a potential marketing agency partner?
Yeah. So number one, I think most e-com business owners never ask this question, is like just understanding how an agency came to be, right? Like, how did that founder start the agency? How long ago did they start it? What did they do before they started the agency? Because that gives you so much insight into the actual agency itself, right? Like a lot of the times, like an agency could start out from someone who was doing PPC campaigns within another agency and was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to go start my own PPC agency. I'd rather do that. And so they'll say, yeah, I've been doing PPC for 10 years, but really the agency's been around for 1 year and they've got 9 years at another agency. And it's very different if you're hiring an agency, like that person who's running the Google Ads campaign. It's very different running Google Ads campaigns and running a business at the same time, right? Like at some point, you're not looking over all the accounts. You're not in it day in, day out. And so you have to look at how they end up building a business. And so for me, one of the biggest red flags is anyone that's underneath 5 years of experience of running a marketing agency is typically a red flag for me, because you don't know how long they're actually going to work. That's kind of number one. Number 2 is you have to look at the size of agency. And most people don't think about this, but agencies, just like most businesses, they will break at 20 people and they'll break again at 50 people. And so if you're working with an agency that's around that number of employee, you should be very careful, because once they hit 20 people, an agency owner actually has to remove themselves from the business and have systems and processes that allow them to scale. And that typically takes time, right? It takes time. You break down, you got to set those up, and then it takes you about a year to get back on your feet and you move forward. If you have coaches and consultants and stuff like that, it might be a little bit different. Once you hit the 50 person range, like you have to have really strong culture. The systems and processes that you built before don't work. So you have to rebuild them again, and you got to get ready to scale up to that next level. And this is why most marketing agency owners will actually sell at 50, like around that 50 person mark. They don't want to go to the next level of growth, because as we know, when you grow businesses, you go up and down a lot. And so that's just one of the things to be aware of whenever you're working with an agency, and just understanding how many people they have in their company and how they're structured.
Okay.
Right. Another thing that I typically look for, if someone says, we are growing really fast. We grew 200% last year. We're growing 100% this year. And we're growing Listen, agencies are not scalable machines, right? They're service-based business. And so therefore, they need to hire people and have a lot of really good systems to allow them to scale. Typically, a business like an agency business scaling at 15 to 20% a year is kind of like the range you're looking for. I'd be terrified for ones that are scaling more than that, because it's just hectic and crazy. And that's going to affect you as a business working with them.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks for breaking those down. And those are definitely good things to look out for. So the years in business, somebody that's just kind of new, kind of want to look out for size. If they're too large, and I guess it kind of goes hand in hand with the size as well as the scalability, because I guess it's two different things, because if a business is too large, yeah, you may not be able to get the attention that you really deserve as a business because they're too split between all of their customers, servicing all of their customers. And obviously, when you get that large, then, something is going to fall through the cracks. And then, like you said, the scaling as well. If they're scaling too quickly or they say they're scaling too quickly, same type of thing. They're, they've got so much growth going on, they can't really focus on what's in house, their current companies that they're working with, because they're so focused on just growing the business. So
100%.
those are really good red flags to look out for sure.
One more,
Now,
and this is kind of like a bonus one, is like if an agency says that they're full service, like especially if you're in the small and mid market kind of space, I'd be running the other way. Like truly find out what they're really good at.
Right.
No agency is really full service. They will have certain services that they do, but just ask them specifically, like, hey, if out of all these things that you do, what are the top 3 things that you do really well?
Okay.
And just focus on that, because they might show you, 9 or 10 things that they do, but a lot of them are not done at a high level.
Yeah, good to know. And from what I've seen, and just from talking to other agencies that have been on the podcast, and you can let me know if this is the case, it does seem like agencies are kind of pulling away from that whole full service model and focusing in. I'd say probably the last 3 to 5 agencies that I've had on the podcast, they've all specialized in a specific aspect of marketing. I hadn't really talked to too many that are saying they're full service. Are you seeing that as a trend as well?
It is. So it is a trend. So, I mean, if you want to scale an agency, you have to focus on kind of like one niche. Like it's either you're niching on industry or niching on service, right? It's really hard to scale otherwise if you don't do that. But what's kind of happening is like AI is shifting the space, because execution is becoming easier and easier to do within AI. And so like take a PPC ads partner, for example, right? Like in the past, they're like, all we do is focus on Facebook and Google ads. But now that AI is getting better and better, like, you can create creative easily. The algorithms are getting better. The focus becomes, we actually have to look at more aspects of this funnel, right? So you're not becoming more full service where you're getting like SEO and stuff like that, but it's like, no, we need to actually like start having more focus on the landing pages, maybe some of the copy. Once we get people running the ads, maybe it's down to email. Like, so they have to look at a little bit more of the funnel, I think. And like agencies are going to have to evolve to become more strategic than just execution focused, because execution is becoming easier. And so, as they become more efficient, they'll be able to take on more things, but I think they have to focus within their own funnel.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. From your experience, you talked a lot about entrepreneurs still kind of not knowing what their needs are. How would an entrepreneur better assess, their own needs before they actually engage an agency, to make sure that they're not misled by, a flashy pitch or, some extravagant promises?
Yeah. So I think if you're like a 7-figure business, you need to really have a marketing strategy in place. Like, and when I mean marketing strategy, I mean like you actually have it down on paper, you have KPIs, you know what channels you're using, you know who's in charge of those channels, like truly having that built out, right? Like when you're first starting a business, you're throwing a bunch of things at the wall. And then once you kind of figure it out, you're like, oh, we made it to 7 figures. But now to get to the next level, you truly need a marketing strategy. So that's like number one, have that in place. Once you have that in place, like either you have like a consultant or a fractional CMO or someone to kind of support that marketing strategy and help you bring in the partners that will help you execute on it. That way, like you're not going into a meeting being like, I heard SEO works for my industry. And you go to an SEO company, what are they going to say? They're going to say, yeah, SEO works for your industry. We'll do it for you, right? Versus being like, here's our marketing strategy. We need a paid ad person. We're going to be doing social media. We need creatives done at this level. And so now you can go into the market and look for the specific agencies that do that work well. And you're so much more targeted in what you need. And so that's kind of like the first step, I would say, is just like have a strong marketing strategy. The other piece would be understanding your business and your KPIs, like kind of where you're headed as a business and what kind of revenue goals you're trying to hit, right? Or it might be internal goals, like maybe you want better employee satisfaction. Maybe you want to be able to hire internally better because you just have that culture and that community that people get drawn to, right? You need to know what your business goals are as well. Once you kind of have those two things set up, they kind of play together. And then from there, you start looking at, okay, what do I have in terms of internal resources? What is the personality of my company and the values of my company so that when I'm hiring an agency, they're aligned with the values? Like there's all these steps. And so whenever I'm doing like a discovery call with a business owner, I'm trying to understand all these different aspects because once you understand what the business is, like who they are, where they're trying to head, what they have in terms of resources, what they have in terms of marketing strategy, I go, these are the agencies that make sense to start plugging into that equation because they're aligned.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because and especially from your perspective, you dealing with all of these businesses, you've seen that, of course, every business is going to be at a different level. A business you're talking to today could be at a totally different level as another one that you're talking to, tomorrow, and there's a lot of factors involved. So I can see how you have to find that right agency, because they're, those two different businesses that you're talking to, that one agency that you may be thinking about could be good for them, may not be. And so it's definitely just not a kind of a one size fits all for sure. Hey, before we jump into the next question, I want to take a quick second to talk about something that's been a game changer for so many business owners, including myself. That's public speaking. If you're running an e-commerce brand, marketing agency, or any business, your ability to communicate clearly and confidently can really make all the difference. Whether you're pitching to investors, speaking at conferences, or even just creating content that connects with your audience. That's exactly why I created speaktoempower.com, a coaching program designed to help you master public speaking without fear. You can start with my free 10-day course where I walk through essential strategies to overcome nervousness, engage in the audience, and speak with confidence. And if you want to go even deeper, I offer weekly virtual group coaching sessions and one-on-one coaching tailored to your needs. So if you've ever felt like you could be more confident on camera, on stage, or even in day-to-day business conversations, head over to speaktoempower.com and get started for free today. All right, now back to the episode. Agencies, all of these agencies, as you mentioned, are scaling. Some are saying, of course, that they're scaling a lot faster than others. As these different agencies are starting to evolve, and then there's these new trends that are coming across, are there any red flags as far as marketing trends that agencies are starting to kind of push these days that, are specific to what's going on today, technology wise or just trend wise, that a brand has to be careful of?
Yeah, we're in a very interesting time right now where like everything is just like chaos in the marketing world, right? Like every like marketing channel has like some sort of chaos, right? So when you start thinking about like email marketing, for example, there's all these new tools, all this new AI to just make things feel like dialed in, right? But it's like you have to find the balance, right? Like if you're doing so much customization and everyone else is doing so much customization, people get tired of it, right? Like ultimately, people just want authenticity. I think over time, that's going to be what really is going to matter. Is like what's real, like where's the real human connection in a lot of this? And right now, I think we're losing a lot of that. Like if you start looking in the paid ads world, like there's all this creative being created. It's like, oh, we can go to your competitor's website and their Facebook ad manager, not their Facebook ad manager, but like just the Facebook ads manager shows you everything that's going on. We can copy every single creative that they make as soon as they make it so that we can run our own ads. And my question goes, cool, if you can do that and all your competitors are doing that, is everyone just going to have like the same ads running all the time? Like, how are you standing out? And so what ends up becoming super interesting about that is that your brand needs to stand out. So whenever you're making ads, for example, the ads have to really align with your brand so that your competitor can't come in and take it and just replicate it, because it just would be so off brand for them, right? And so we're moving into this kind of like phase where it's like authenticity, brand, connection is going to matter more and more. And anyone who's just trying to do the tactics and the execution with AI to just make things simpler and just kind of get something that's like 5 out of 10 level good out there, it's just going to become like the average baseline. Whereas the people that are really focused on like, who is our brand, what is our messaging, and how do we align everything we do to that, is going to be way harder to rip off, and you're going to stand out more in the market than anyone else.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely see that. And it's interesting you mentioned AI. I'm really curious also as far as, of course, if every business is just, using the same kind of blanket marketing, AI marketing prompts and using the same type of imagery, like you said, everything does look the same. But on the other side of things, to kind of play devil's advocate as far as AI is concerned, is there, how can these AI tools be used effectively, either by the agencies or by the brands themselves to really, maximize the power of these tools? And are there any tools that you'd like to kind of highlight in your experience?
Yeah. So two ways I kind of think about AI when it comes to businesses. The one is like for smaller businesses that, like, let's say they have a marketing level of like a 0 out of 10 or a 1 out of 10, right? Like it's just very like basic, right? Like you just need to get some emails out. You need to get some content out. I think AI will allow you to very quickly get to like a 4 or 5 out of 10 level, right? Like the baseline of what people are going to be able to do is just going to be higher. And then the second aspect, when looking top down, I think for the people that are going to be using AI at like an expert level, you need to actually be an expert level person in that area to be able to use AI at that level, right? Like, so let's say you're not going to know what a 10 out of 10 branding engagement looks like unless you've done or know how to do a 10 out of 10 branding engagement, right? In terms of the way you prompt it, the output that you see, like you're going to see all the nuances that someone normal is never going to see because they don't know what good brand messaging looks like, what good brand visuals look like, what a good logo should have. So I think one, it's just going to bring like the average business owner's level of marketing just up from a very low level to just something that like the average is going to be much better. But I think from the top down, you still need a lot of those experts, a lot of those strategic people to basically create, to use AI to become more efficient, but also and get more done. But they still need to be experts in what they do. So that's kind of like the two areas of AI.
Okay.
In terms of tools, I mean, there's so many tools out there. I don't really like naming any of them because they're going to switch. Literally by next week, it's going to be a different one.
For sure.
But what I'm seeing is people creating a lot of efficiencies within marketing agencies from things that they used to do, from like their SOPs to certain outputs to all that stuff. Like they're replacing people, but also their current people are doing different things because they're able to automate a lot of the stuff that could be automated, right? And so that's kind of what I'm seeing from all directions and so many different.
And kind of staying on that in that same vein of AI, this has been a talk with AI amongst so many different industries and and so many different service areas. How do you see AI affecting marketing agencies as far as could there be an eventual replacement for marketing agencies by, not necessarily a tool, but a super sophisticated AI system? Do you see that coming, and is that even feasible?
I think, like I said, I think certain parts can be replaced. Like, let's say, for example, people that used to build template-based websites, right? Like, and charging anywhere from 3 to 10 grand on those. Like, I think that type of thing is going to be replaced at some point, right? Like if you're starting a business or you're trying to get out the door, like you can build a website in a minute now, right? Like with all the copy, with all the photos and videos, and like it's just done, right? But I do think on the topper end, like the mid websites and the higher end websites, like I don't think it's going to ever be replaced. Like I said, you need expert level people to understand what expert level looks like and someone to be watching over it. So I think there's always going to be that facilitation of it. But I do think certain things are going to be replaced or just become more and more efficient. The question now becomes like, right, like at the end of the day, we've always had these tools, right? AI just becomes another tool that you have. And will I, as a business owner, go and use AI to try to replace what like a marketing agency does for me? Like there's so many things that they facilitate and bring together that I don't even have the brain space to do that, right? So CEOs don't have the brain space to do that. Maybe someone within their team will, but even they have like more strategic imperatives. So I think at the execution level, it's going to become easier and easier to do things. You still just need people and marketing agencies and people to get those things done because you already have so much stuff you're doing on your plate.
For sure.
So the way we do things is going to change. But I think marketing agencies are just going to evolve because ultimately they've always been a service provider to bridge the gap between business and marketing. And so they're always going to be that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, their role may kind of change in-house, kind of what they're doing and the way they perform with their teams. But with AI, I think it's just, it seems like when you're looking at AI across all industries, there's always going to be a need for a human facilitator to be able to, you got to have that human in the middle that's going to bridge the gap between what the AI spits out and then what's going to be provided to, that business owner or to that individual. Because it's just, they're not perfect, and it's never going to be. I mean, they're going to be getting better and better, of course, but I think you always still have to have that middle person to, feed it the right prompts, analyze what's being returned, and then make sure it's relevant for particular case. So yeah, I think that's kind of where we're headed.
Yeah.
Well, B, this has been an awesome conversation. I've definitely learned a ton, and as we've seen, you're definitely an expert on what not to look for or what to look for in an agency and the red flags, and that's very interesting. And I'm sure this is going to go a long way with our listeners and our users, and our viewers rather. But before we do close things out, on a lighter note, I always like to switch things up. If you don't mind sharing one closing fun fact about yourself that you think might surprise our audience.
Well, that's a great question. Something that would surprise audiences. I lived in the Netherlands for a year and a half, moved internationally to support my wife doing her master's. And while doing that, we got to visit 55 different European cities and towns. And so that's always been fun, and a lot of good life experiences through that.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. 55 cities. Yeah. I'm sure that was a great time just to be able to experience all of those different locations, the culture, the language, the food. Yeah. I love traveling myself, and you always learn so much, and it's always interesting to get the perspective of different places and different cultures, because people look at things totally differently when you travel, and you really start to pick up on things and say, okay, why don't we do things this way when back at home? It's like 100%. questioning stuff. So you pick things up, when you're on your travels. So very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Lastly, before we do let you go, what's the best way for our listeners and viewers to reach out to you if they want to pick your brain any more about these red flags for agencies, or just anything regarding marketing agencies?
Yeah, I mean, the two best ways. One is to go to my website, so www.cjammarketing.com. And if you need to reach out there, you can reach out from there. Also, there's a whole bunch of resources at the bottom in terms of like questions to ask agencies, how to spot red flags, all that stuff. Those are totally free. And then the follow-up is on LinkedIn, Behdad Jamshidi. If you look for that, I do content basically daily there, which I just try to always highlight, like what people should be watching out for, red flags, certain situations that my customers have gone through and I don't want other people to go through. So those would be the two best places.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that, B. We really appreciate you coming on. And we'll have the links to your site and those resources in our show notes, as well as on the website, so people can check you out from there. And it's really been a pleasure speaking with you today on the E-Commerce Marketing Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the E-Commerce Marketing Podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share it with everyone you know. Are you looking to take your digital marketing to the next level, but are tired of wading through countless YouTube videos with unproven and untrusted marketing strategies? Well, we have the answer for you. The More Sales Every Month online digital marketing course. In this information-packed course, you will learn effective keyword research, link building, content marketing, and much more to attract and convert your site visitors into paying customers. Just go to moresaleseverymonth.com and sign up today for a low one-time fee. In addition to this power-packed course, if you would like to get access to a growing repository of digital marketing articles, PDFs, and ebooks, check out getosi.com/resources and opt in to get full access to our library of priceless marketing information to help you take your digital marketing to the next level.